Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Surandini and I'm an entrepreneur and have been associated with Inside IIM as a video producer since 2022. The agenda of this webinar is to create awareness about how people from various backgrounds and skills reach the top. Today, we are privileged to have Madhurima Shekhar, who is currently pursuing an MBA from Columbia Business School, which is one of the 6 Ivy League business schools and one of the oldest business schools in the world. She's an international level chess player and has worked in JP Morgan and was the VP at Manohar Lal Jewelers. She will enlighten us with her journey, struggles, and achievements, shedding a spotlight on her finance and business experience with her contribution to the society. If you have any questions during the presentation, please comment on the live chat and we'll address them during the Q&A session at the end of this. So, Madhurima, let's begin with the most basic question. You have been part and have played chess internationally for 10 years of your whole life and also ranked worldwide. What is it that fueled your motivation to do something like this at such an early stage of your life?
First of all, thanks for organizing this. It's a great opportunity to share my experiences, and I hope a lot of people get to learn from it. I started playing chess when I was 10 years old. I was walking in my school and by chance stumbled upon the tryouts and got selected in the team, and one thing led to another. But I would not take the credit for fueling the motivation or growth for it. It was definitely my mother. She was the one who supported me through thick and thin. She was the one who had the vision that this could be more than just a hobby. She was the one who put in a lot of effort. My younger brother was 10 years younger to me. He was just like 1 year old. And he used to pack up the whole house. He used to take him around. We used to travel across India for 10 days at a stretch to play tournaments. So at that young age, you really need good mentorship and guidance. And that's exactly what she provided.
Okay. And how old were you when you started this?
I was 10 years old.
So
and I played until age 19, yeah.
Okay, 10 to 19, nice. And what made you continue playing this for 10 years?
As I said, if you feel like leaving it when you lose, bad. But when you start winning and you start progressing and when you start seeing the benefits of the game beyond the chessboard, it's just very difficult to get out of it. And my mom was a great supporting sister. My school was very supportive of me. I had like 5 to 10% attendance throughout school. I used to go 1 month before exams, just study for that and take them. And especially my coaches, they were like, it doesn't really matter if you win or lose, you just have to continuously keep playing. And I think the journey was really enriching in terms of all the sort of exposure that I had the chance to meet people from across the world, from across different socioeconomic backgrounds, and the challenges they faced and still pursued the game with such passion. And I think if I haven't mentioned it, obviously I was very passionate about it too.
And since you have such an exposure at such an early age, did you see any difference between you and normal school going people then?
At that time, it would be difficult to say I saw it, but looking back, I could definitely say that the game made me more self-aware, because playing competitively at an international level, it's like how they say, right? The difference between 80 to 90, 95 is a easier leap than from 95 to 99%, because it's the small nuances. And nobody will come up to you and tell you, fix this, fix that. You have to be very introspective. You have to analyze all your games. You have to analyze all your mistakes, find out why you did what you did and what was the gap. So it made me a very introspective person overall. The other thing that I learned was, my coach always used to say that you should not be too attached to the result. Like, it's quote out of Gita, just do your work and don't care about the fruit. Karam karo, phal ki chinta mat karo. But it's very true, like, because when you attach yourself to the ultimate result, it just becomes very difficult to focus on performing to your highest potential. So it made me very comfortable with delayed gratification, that you can lose a lot, but you have to keep on going. You have to keep on going. You have to keep on going, and then you win, and then you win, then you win. Then you again lose a lot, and then you win again. After every competitive player would tell you that after a certain level, they reach a plateau, which is very hard to get over, and then they rise up, and then they reach a plateau, and then they rise up, or go down and rise up, and stuff like that. So, self-awareness, delayed gratification, and a very key concept of chefs was you have to keep developing. Like it's not just in the middle, beginning of the game, the middle of the game, the end of the game. You have to constantly keep developing your piece. You have to constantly keep thinking about how to improve your position against the other one. And till the last moment, the main objective, if you have to put it in that term, is to develop your pieces. So that really made it sparked my curiosity in life, and like having to pick up different hobbies, learn about different and new things, even beyond the game was was very connected to that.
Hmm. So you did your BCom from SRCC from 2014 to 2017.
Yes.
And when I saw your profile, I saw in those 3 years you did a lot of things like two finance internships, two social volunteering things. Then you also helped underprivileged students. Can you just give us some details about your college life and how you ended up doing all these things?
So by the time I reached college, I was thinking about transitioning out of chess. I had gotten my world top 30 under 19 positioning ranking, and I was thinking that I want to try more and different new things. It wasn't that I knew what I wanted to try, and that's what led me to explore many different paths within college. One of the things that I was very actively involved with was dramatics clubs, because it was the dramatics club. I initially was an actor, but then couldn't keep up with my chess schedule, so moved to production. And I just wanted to sort of exercise my creative side through that. I also knew that I had a very analytical, calculative, numbers driven mind, and that's what led me to do an internship at IBM, do an internship at EY, and even with I think it's also to do a lot. Like I didn't know that you were supposed to do everything. It's also to do a lot with the cohort. People at SRCC were always like somebody or the other was always doing something interesting, and that being in that environment gives you so many more and new ideas that you wouldn't have had otherwise. Like, okay, a friend is doing something like this. If you find it interesting, go into it. I'm not saying that you just do it because other people are doing it, because I don't even remember a class size where like 500-600 people would do 500-600 different things. But like you pick and choose and you interact with such people. So through SRCC, I would say my main three learnings were: number one, that surrounding yourself with the right type of people is really, really important to keep pushing yourself. And number two would probably be, it's okay if you don't have it figured out. I didn't have it figured out until like probably my last semester. And it's okay to keep trying. It's okay to keep exploring. Sometimes the exploration will lead you to activities that will not be fun and that will seem like a waste of time, but it's okay. That's the part of the journey.
And I saw that you have started social work during this time, I guess. And I wanted
Mhm.
to know what made you start this, or was it something like or everybody was doing something and you picked that up, or something that you were actually passionate about?
So regarding all the works, I did two. I was organized very intensely with two NGOs. And the reason why I did that, because through my teens, I saw like I was extremely busy with chess, and I never really had a chance to give back. And I feel very passionately about the topic of empowering girls, empowering uh, children, especially girls. And that's just an avenue that I found. It had to be, number one, consistent. It couldn't be like I'm going out of town every weekend to some village. So the NGO that I found was really close to my college, so I could consistently give my time, create an impact. And the part that I really enjoyed about it was the part of mentorship, and the part where I was working with young children. And we basically we went to in one of the organizations, we went to a government school. It was a all female government school, and we taught them. Uh, we created a play for them, And it was really exciting at the end of it to see how girls who were so shy and wouldn't even come up and talk, like just shine bright on the stage and would like express themselves. And it was really nice.
Got it. So you finished your bachelor's after this, and then you went to work in JP Morgan directly. Do you think you should have, like, why did you not opt for any masters then?
So to be completely honest, when I started my third year, so how things happen in undergrad is you do a few internships in your first 2 years, and then you start recruiting for at that time whatever company comes to your college, and mostly it's consulting firms as well as banks and a few local hires, etc. And initially, I did plan to do a master's initially through my first semester in my third year. So my fifth semester, I was studying for GMAT. I took it. It did not go well, and I scrapped the idea. And I was thinking about retaking it, but I was just analyzing and assessing. But at the same time, I was selectively applying to a few companies that come to college, but nothing seemed really nice. And a few companies that seemed really nice, I made certain shortlists. I didn't make certain, so that didn't work out. And towards the end of it, JP Morgan was the first. It was the first time for JP Morgan to hire for that role from a non-engineering background. So previous to that, they were only hiring from engineering schools and from MBA level or some master level school. So it was um, it was their first time hiring from SRCC, and I remember it was 4 or 6 of us who got through. So I would not say that I had it figured out in the beginning of third year that I knew I was going to get into finance, or I knew I wanted to do something finance in the finance related industry, and my plan to go to masters was also to go into masters in finance. But I would also at the same time say that whatever is happening for the right in the moment. And I'm sort of in retrospect glad that I didn't go for masters then and I didn't get through, because if I would have gotten that right GMAT score, I would have started applying. I probably wouldn't have recruited towards the end of my third year, and I wouldn't have been here. So yeah.
So how is if you had to explain the interview experience in JP Morgan, how would you explain that?
It was long back, but I remember it in bits and pieces. So they had 3 rounds. Yeah, they had 3 rounds. The first round was a test that everybody gets to take. Maybe they had a CV shortlisting round or not. I don't remember clearly. They came to campus. On campus, they provided a test, an online test. It was an MCQ as well as you had to write a paragraph. Then there were 2 classes of like maybe 80 people who were selected. And then there was more of a case study in-person round where a few EDs, MDs, VPs, like one ED, one VP, and one associate who was an SR alum. They flew down from Bombay and they took those case study sessions where they would present a case of the company and ask you questions, and it was more interactive and things of that sort. And then after that, I think 15 or 20 people were selected for the interview round, and there were 2 rounds of interviews with actually there were 4 people who came to interview us with both sets of interviewers.
Okay. And what was the role that you were selected for? Like, what is the exact role?
I was selected for as a junior financial analyst within JP Morgan. So within corporate and investment banking, there is treasury services within which there is wholesale payments. So initially, I was recruited into treasury services, which was a 16-member team sitting out of Mumbai, supporting offices in Singapore, supporting offices in London, supporting offices in Americas for anything related to analytics or pre-sale mandates or post-sale like deck creations and getting new business, etc., etc. Anything related to analytics and sales. And like being the office at Mumbai was sort of a think tank and a strategy office for these teams. But luckily, within 2 months of being recruited into JPM, I was asked by my manager that they're creating another team, and would I like to interview for it? It will be a 2-member team supporting a different product within treasury services, which was trade finance. and within trade finance, specifically supply chain finance. I won't get into the details of that, but so that was a great plot twist, I would say. I interviewed for it, I got through, and it was me and my colleague Surbhi. She was around 6-7 years elder to me within the firm, and it was a great experience because we built that team from scratch. We went to New York for month and a half to meet with the rest of the stakeholders. There was a global offsite, and we started like scoping out what we want to do for the team, etc., etc. And like when you're in a 16-member team, the kind of work you get to do is very filtered. Whereas when you're in a 2-member team, I was directly interacting with global heads. I was directly interacting with global sales heads, so global heads across functions. So it was a very cross-functional role, and the idea of building up new systems processes the way you want to was really exciting to me at such a in my entry level job. Was very exciting.
I just want to understand, practically, how were you doing things? Was it a computer desktop thing where you have an Excel open and you are analyzing the data? Or was it talking to clients? Like, want to understand what it was exactly?
So at any MNC bank, client-facing roles would come maybe 3 or 4 years after your undergrad. It's not because they don't think you're competent, it's just that the level of executives that they deal with would be like CEO of some Fortune 5 or CFO of some Fortune 500 company. And because of which they have to maintain certain strict controls between communication within clients, and they have a different client-facing set altogether. That's a different team. That being said, the kind of analysis that we used to do could be of multiple could come from different places. One could be the client gives us their own data, and then we run multiple different Excel and we download that on Excel or Python or whatever, depending on the size of the data, and then we run it through our financial models that we previously created, and then we find out what is the benefit of the particular client to go with our product. And it would be an intense, like it would take probably 2 full days to go through that model one by one. But that was one part. Another would be you don't have any data from the client. You have to use all the public and paid resources that you have within JPM to make proxy estimates using the geography they're in, the industry that they're in, the kind of work that they're doing, and the potential benefit or that they could have, or what is the potential opportunity cost that they are incurring without using our product, and like things of all that manner. So it was more Excel based, but I would say just by the virtue of having great managers, they would allow us to sometimes sit on calls or like share the meeting notes intensively, and like share what happened during those calls. So that also really gives you the perspective of what goes on in the client's mind, and that helps the person who's creating for the client to add more value for the client.
And if you had to tell that, what was the answer that you were looking for? Like, what is the question that you were answering? So can you just tell us 1-2
Okay,
questions?
sure. So that really depends on the project that we are dealing with. And the most common project, I'll tell you about the most common workflow that we had was running supplier analysis. So our product was related to basically supply chain finance was related to a big MNC having thousands of suppliers and how they can improve their working capital flow. The MNC improves its own working capital flow, and the suppliers get the cash instead of the 30 pay terms, they get it earlier, but at a cheaper rate because of this MNC support. So the answer that we were trying, how do we sell our product to them? The answer that and we just tell them this is a great product, we have great customer service. It doesn't work like that. You have to put solid figures and solid numbers because that's how people in finance think. So you had to analyze all their supplier spend, all the different places that they were spending in, all the different payment terms that they were incurring, any other nuances in that data. And then you had to figure out how much money will the MNC save by using our product. So that will, in one line, would be the core of any financial product analysis.
Hmm.
And for that, we had multiple different models to run it through.
Got it. Understood. So I think you worked there for 2 years, around 2 years.
Yeah,
Did you have
almost like 18
anyone,
months,
18 months, and did you have
18, 20 months.
anyone working under you at any point of time?
Yeah, so within it was not directly under me. So within 6 months of starting with this team, we got a great response. We were able to support our Americas and EMEA's team very well, and the other teams were looking for similar kind of help. And one of the mandates of the team was also to sort of provide synergy across all the analysis and all the pitch work and RFP responses that we were creating. That was another main workflow I forgot to mention. Um, so within 6 months, we got mandates to expand our team to other charters, which was Asia and LATAM, and we also got approval for a headcount for 3 people. So towards last 3 to 4 months, we had two more junior analysts join in, and we had one more analyst join in. But technically, they weren't under me, but just because I'd done that work for 1.5 years, I was involved in training them and getting them up to speed.
And what is the skill that you were looking in then?
If I would say the team, I wouldn't say particularly me, but the team was looking for someone. It really depends at that particular point in time. So for someone in a but a skill that would transcend over different sort of roles would be that you have a curiosity to learn. You are very proactive, and the combination of both can get you through anything, because it's not like you or at least I in my experience, I haven't seen that you enter a job with knowing about what to do, how to do 80% of it, unless or until you're like you have 10 or 12 years of experience. And we're hiring for entry level roles, right? Like right out of undergrad or right out of masters. So what we really see is for a curious understanding how curious that person is and understanding how willing to learn they are, because you can teach anyone anything within a period of 2 to 3 weeks and they would be able to do it to the T. So those were two really important sort of skills and factors that we looked at.
Okay. And why did you decide to end the journey here in JP Morgan?
So that's a good question. So by after completing 16, 17 months, I was thinking about, okay, what's next and what's the next steps? And wanted to do something more operator level. This had been a very, at JP Morgan, I was very glad for the experience I had. I had great female mentorship. I had great male mentorship. I had great exposure to sort of how client deals run, and something that I couldn't have probably asked for the first 2 years of my work ex. But still, I wanted to do something more implementation related now, to take take everything that I had learned from there and like apply it. And that's why I took the decision of stopping the journey there and joining my family business. It was a difficult decision because around that time there was an opening in front end sales office in India within JPM, and I interviewed for it and I got it. And I had to sort of I was in a very it was a very difficult situation to say no to that. But I knew that if at that time I knew I wanted to do my master's, and if I stick with the finance journey, then the opportunity cost of saying no to a similar job later will be much higher, and I might not be able to take a decision then. And the opportunity cost seems lesser here. And also, I thought that if I ever wanted to come back, then one, I would be able to come back, and two, I could also pivot back to finance post my master's. So I would not say I'm a very risky person. I am slightly risk averse, but I wouldn't say very risk averse. So I had all these sort of justifications in my head that if it doesn't go back, I can always come back.
I had I had a question regarding this. So after leaving JP Morgan, do you think JP Morgan ever gave you this concept of networking with new kinds of people and different kinds of people, and maybe you're in contact with them now also?
Uh, so I wouldn't say it was instilled in the culture
Hmm.
because, like, I know like some of the top consulting firms and things of other like more people related businesses really push their young employees also to start networking, but it wasn't known knowledge. But
Hmm.
I would definitely say that my one of my mentors would definitely push me and encourage me to do different things within the organization beyond just your normal workflow, and like go. There was a women's club. There was some other kinds of clubs at JPM. So go and attend those and try to be a part of those so that you can meet more new people. But in all honesty, the whole concept of networking, I've only been able to truly realize and understand during my MBA. It wasn't something that was articulated so well and taught so well before that.
So just to interrupt your story in between, I just wanted to say this, that All Uni Club is there, and luckily I'm also part of it, and I have seen this impact. I am 23-year-old kid right now, and I know many people are here who are 18, 19, and as you said, you did your MBA at 24, 25, I guess now. So this is when you got to know about what is networking. But alt uni is some like Club alt uni is helping me network with people from different backgrounds, and just it's just crazy that how a 23-year-old kid like me and like understands these things now at this age. And I'm sure whoever is watching can understand this within, when you're 18 or 19. It's a great opportunity. Just check it out. I'm just not selling anything or something. I found a benefit out of this, and I want you guys to check this out really badly. It's that good. So yeah, coming back to your story, I guess. Yeah, so you ended your journey and then you decided to do business now. And business, we know, is a different ball changer thing, but luckily you had a business. And you spoke about, when you were doing chess, you spoke about how there were dips and how you can manage it. What was the delayed gratification? I think you used that word,
Mm.
and that is something which is very important in a business. So now in 2019 you decided to join your family jewelry business, turning your complete career trajectory from a core finance background to a more business oriented operational implementation background. But I know, as you said, you're a bit risk averse person, and you decided you can have a feet here and have a feet there. But now, when you are in a business, you directly went on and you headed e-commerce, product marketing, and finance all together. So let's dig deeper into this journey, because it's obviously a very different thing than what you were doing now. So yeah, just tell us. You were so young. What was your age? It has to be 23, maybe, when you started this, or 22.
22, 20,
22.
22. Yeah, 22. Yeah, 22.
So you were 22 and you took all these responsibilities. Maybe I'm not asking you to name many issues, because I'm sure you have faced many, but maybe some issues that you faced when you joined your company.
Sure. So just to clarify, I did not join and took everything. It was a natural progression.
Okay.
I joined as the head of finance because that was my background. That was what I was most comfortable with. And I really felt it was really beneficial in understanding the business through numbers, through and through, that how does one segment of the business impact another. Just to give some context, we have 6 brick and mortar stores in Delhi NCR, and we deal in fine jewelry, but we only at that time used to deal with 2 products, and both of the products had an average selling price which was much higher than like beyond 1 lakh rupees. And I was noticing more and more how the demographic that was visiting our store was a certain kind, was post marriage, and we were missing out on this young millennial women. These young millennial women who had started working, who had money of their own, who wanted to wear new and different kind of products, um, and wanted to like spend on themselves, but not, no, like even at this age, I don't want to spend a lakh on myself every other month. So I wanted to move into a lower selling price item with higher margin. So that's where the idea of launching two new product lines came. So I then eventually went on to launch. First, I took over the management of Polki, which was 1 or 2 months old when I joined, and I saw that end to end, and then I launched a completely new line, silver jewelry, which I looked at end to end. While doing that, I then the next progression in 2020 was when COVID hit us. We had a big gold selling festival, and we had to create an e-commerce website within 2 weeks, and that was a big challenge. But it really helped me get senior management approval and just get things to implementation. I'll talk about the challenges too, but yeah. And then I went on to take digital marketing as well. So it was a natural progression. It would be naive and stupid to think that I could take on everything together, but like slowly, you understand the business, and then you can. And one of my mentors at JP Morgan, she Swella Rosenberg, she was the head of sales of I'm forgetting the exact countries, but 3 or 4 countries in EMEA. And then the JP Morgan was looking out for another head of sales for 3 or 4 regions within EMEA, countries within EMEA. And then she told me that she had a conversation with the manager or whoever was the person in charge, that why are you looking for someone else? I can handle these two. And then they were like, no, you can't handle everything. And then I explicitly remember this line, like, don't uh, like give me more responsibility, but also give me a larger team that can handle it. I can handle the team and the extended responsibility. Don't feel like I can't handle it just because it's too much work. So that's what I think kept me going. And so coming back to your main question about challenges, where to begin? There were so many, but so one of the biggest, I talk about maybe 3 or 4 challenges. One was the stark difference in working environment. JP Morgan was very organized. Every beginning of every week, you know what you had to deliver by Friday, and then also next Friday, and your 2.5 weeks were planned out, and you had to just cut, do it, perform well, and that's okay. And then you get a tick mark. Okay, this task is done. This task is done. This task is done. There was no such thing at the business. It was quite unorganized. Working with your family is also, I guess, it requires a certain level of skill that you learn over time of how to manage your IQ with your EQ. Things move rather slow at more traditional businesses, and they need a lot of approval. They need a lot of like general consensus, and changing what has been happening for 90 years at a 90-year-old business is just generally difficult because nobody likes change. Everybody likes to keep doing what they're doing. That being said, these were all the challenges, but that being said, one of my major learnings 3 or 4 months in, I was a little worried if I made the right decision or not, because I had to let go of that offer. I was facing all these challenges. But one really interesting meeting with my dad's friend, who is now one of the CEOs at uh, who had worked in a Fortune 500 company at a high level, and he shared his similar experiences. How when he started a new role, even he went through all the challenges that I was going through. He had less credibility. Even he had to like do a lot of extra work to get approval on new things. Even he had to skim through the office sort of politics and just play the game. And even he had to go through all of that. So it just made me realize that I'm not the only person. It's just a part of the game, and you just have to figure it out and keep going forward. So the first thing I would say I did was disassociate my self-worth with the work from the work, because a lot of us who have come from that journey enjoy getting a tick mark on whatever we're doing. And working at my business made me realize that it is it is the furthest from it is a very unrealistic expectation, because you work for a year and then there are few days towards the end of it where whatever you are building shines, but for the rest of the days it's just like you're hustling and you're figuring things out. um, Realizing that I am not the only person facing these challenges was really helpful. Then another thing that was really important was he told me that you have to build credibility no matter what, no matter how much you think that you shouldn't have to prove yourself or do something, etc., etc. So that's how I started in projects where I already had existing credibility. I started building a hedging model because we used to deal with gold with a commodities exchange platform. That brought me more credibility. Showing actual impact in numbers brought a lot of more credibility. Launching new products, initially there were slow sales, but then running new sales motions, running new marketing motions, and running new customer acquisition motions brought new and different kinds of clients, and brought on paper, when you can prove everything, and nobody questions it. So it was just like slowly building credibility and just not being deterred by whatever anyone was saying. And I have to give a lot of credit to my parents, to my father, who were um, always supportive, and they gave me how would I put it? It would be like thoughtful pushback. Like because as a young person, you think you can do anything, but their pushback was always thoughtful, and it was always to the extent that if you can prove it wrong, then go ahead with it, but don't just do it out of the young blood energy.
Okay. And if we had to dig a bit deeper with your roles, maybe like if we say you headed e-commerce and product. So, what was your responsibility in that particular segment?
Okay, so it is everything from creating a business case. If it's a new avenue, e-commerce was a new avenue. The two products that I launched were new. It was creating a business case, which would involve what is the investment, what is the expected ROI, what are the quantitative benefits that we are seeing from it, that we expect from it, what are the timelines, what would be the investment in inventory, team, marketing, etc., etc. So creating the whole business case, getting consensus and approval from senior management, then going out and building a team, getting a team at all ends of getting new members at different ends of sort of the pipeline, from operations to after sales. From production to after sales, and also incorporating the existing infrastructure and using the existing people. So how many people can do the same thing, how many people can't. Then going to market with the product, but be it e-commerce or physical jewelry, and running and coordinating with the marketing team, coordinating with the sales team, coordinating with the after service team. So I was the one point of contact for everything in e-commerce and these other two products, and eventually digital marketing too.
And how were you recruiting people? Like, is it some like through referrals, or did you put your JD in some portal or something?
So it's a mix of everything. Good talent is really highly in demand. And I think I was mentioning to you too that we're currently also
Yeah.
looking for a chief of staff for our firm, as well as a marketing manager. So we usually put out, I wouldn't know the exact locations. The HR team would know better, but from my end, I would inform two people, my network, that I'm looking for someone, and the other is my HR team, and they would find and run the interviews. And I guess they put it on all these different job portals, the JDs on different job portals, as well as work with external hiring agencies.
Or is there any particular skill that you look for when you hire?
Depends on the role that I'm hiring. If it's an entry level role, then I would say the same about being curious and having the agility to learn. But if it's a slightly more experienced role, then I do feel that having relevant experience in the same industry or similar industry is really, really important. I do feel that someone who's who has a hustling attitude and is street smart in general. And to use a very Indian desi term, jugadu in general is also very important because, and the third thing would probably be to make decisions. Eventually they should have the smartness and sort of confidence to eventually make decisions on my behalf with limited information. Because say if you do plan to launch a new product and you're a Fortune 500 company, sorry, you're a Fortune 500 company, you would have extensive data of this is the demographic and this is how much they're spending and this is the regions that they're staying in, and like you'd have a lot of data, but that's not the case in a mid-sized firm. And a lot of decisions will be made on intuition backed with some kind of data. So how comfortable you are with handling ambiguous, uncharted paths, that would also be a skill that I would seek out.
And how would you test that?
It is so. That's a great question. So you have to look in deep into their background and you have to sort of ask about such particular questions. It's like the best way to seek that is ask them these questions. Like I would just basically ask them, okay, tell me about a time when you worked on something new, when you worked on something by yourself, when you like handled a lot of the work of the extended team just by yourself, because there are a lot of times people don't show up or are on leaves and PTOs, etc., and eventually just ask them that, okay, this will be the kind of work. Have you done anything similar or not? So even I guess I was listening to this podcast by, I'm forgetting the name of the company, and they're very high on EQ. And the kind of question they have, I'm completely forgetting the name of the company. They have a very high question for EQ, and they just ask it as is in their interview that, okay, so tell us about a time where you have done something above and beyond your dedicated job description for someone else. So you just get to understand what the person talks about.
Okay. So you headed e-commerce, product marketing, and finance. Was there a point when, with all these transitions, there was a point where you were actually heading all of them together?
Yeah, so it was first only finance, then product, then sorry, what do you call this? First finance, then product, then e-commerce, then digital marketing. Yeah. So it was an addition to everything. It was not like a transition.
Okay. So how, like, there are different teams and every team thinks in their own way. Like the finance team will more be concerned with the finances and the working capital of the company itself. Marketing team is like, please hame budget aur zyada badhao, we need to promote our product. E-commerce and product is quality badhana hai, so we need to use the best products. So there's a tussle between all these groups. And if you are leading all of them, then it's a tussle in your mind that whom to listen and what to do. So how did you manage to sync all these departments together?
So that's a very good observation because I did struggle with it a bunch. I would definitely say that I'm the kind of a person who thinks from a very ROI bottom line point of view, that if you're spending one X amount in a particular division, then how much more can we make out of it? And it's always very numbers driven for me, all decisions. So it was very initially, it was difficult for me to justify a lot of spends. And I did miss out, like this is the con of it. I did miss out on certain opportunities looking back where I could have made larger investments in maybe the product, in maybe the marketing, in maybe something related to e-commerce, where I didn't because I did not see the immediate ROI. But at the same time, having a numbers perspective and having an end-to-end view through different motions of the business gave me a huge advantage to look at the picture in a holistic sense and also to make and tweak changes. So for example, from Friday to Sunday, I used to sit on the sales floor. I was actually selling there on the sales floor, selling my product. Because someone who's buying something, an expensive piece of jewelry for their wedding, they need a certain kind of treatment, right? They can't just be dealt with your. So I was selling those products. I was getting that customer feedback immediately, and I could tweak my e-commerce strategy. I could tweak my marketing strategy. I could tweak my production strategy. I could get new designs for them there and then from my team and show it to them right there. I know what is the inventory that is spread across all the 6 stores because I am selecting an RM. So I know that in Indrapuram store there is these 2 pieces that they're asking for, and I can just text them. And so that was really really beneficial. And I would say I had this epiphany that sorry, I had this awareness about the pros and cons only while I was looking back, and also when I was applying for my MBA. You have to think a lot about what are the challenges that you face, what are the learnings that you had. It's a very introspective experience. So no way did I understand or realize all of this while being in that position. But yeah, through introspection, I did definitely see that. And the con definitely I realized was recently when I am going through my classes, when I'm seeing different business models, and I'm seeing, even in my internship right now, seeing how different decisions are being made. It is not just a cost versus, okay, this is cost is too high, cost to the budget analysis, cost to the benefit, to the actual ROI, even if it's longer. So the mindset of, okay, we need to spend more on our people, we need to spend more on XYZ has really started inculcating in my thought patterns now.
Got it. More holistic viewpoint and then fighting in your mind itself. So after 2 years of working here, then you had a total, I think, 4 years of experience with JP Morgan as well. So you decided to do an MBA, and the basic question is, you already experienced everything from your business, but you still chose to do an MBA. Why? And why from abroad specifically then?
So my as I mentioned, I also wouldn't say I'm risk averse. I would say I take very calculated risky steps. So my plan was that I'm still young. I can afford to do a 2-year MBA because the average age of an MBA abroad is 28, and I was 20. I would be 24 when I was applying at 23, would be 24. Sorry, when I would enter. So I thought that if I don't get into a 2-year program this year, then I can apply to a 1-year program like an IB or something similar next year or next to next year. That's fine. So that was one of the filters. I wouldn't say that there was just one thing that I focused on. There were multiple facets to it. Another thing that I was really fascinated about was the opportunity of learning from different business models across the world. Another thing that was really important to me was that I shouldn't do something just because of herd mentality, and I should have people who are going through similar kind of experiences as me, even if it's not the majority of them. All of those reasons combined, I thought that the best place that I could apply to right now would be an MBA abroad. And to answer your first question, I had seen different facets of business, agreed. But I would also say that, as I mentioned, development is a lifelong game, and you need to constantly keep developing your skills. I did feel that one thing that I really wanted to specifically learn is that I'd learned that you can figure things out easily. Not easily, but like through hustling here and there. But another thing that I did learn, that you don't know what you don't know. So if there are certain new techniques and features within e-commerce, if there are new different business models that people are working on, if there are new techniques of customer acquisition, if there are different techniques of, so there, if you don't know it, you can't even figure it out. You don't need the core capability in it. You need to know it. And an MBA provides you a very holistic, high level view into various different industry, into various different backgrounds, into various different innovations. So I think that is why I chose to do a generalist MBA versus a specific master's in a particular sort of function like finance or marketing or product or something.
Mm. And now I want to understand your profile while you were preparing for it. So, was there something extra, like maybe your 10th and 12th marks were really good, your SRCC grades, or the timeline, the essays that you delivered, the LORs that you gave, or maybe took help from some alumni. So, just wanted to understand what was your preparation then.
Okay. So the process is you have to take your GMAT. Um, and I started preparing for it post COVID. So I was preparing for GMAT and I was working from home. So that was a little helpful. And I started preparing for it post COVID. And the first set of deadlines come in October, September, October period. That's round one. And the second set of deadlines come in December, January period. That is round two. For most colleges, the format is such that you apply in round one on a particular deadline, the 15th September, and then everybody hears together on after a month or so, all the thousands of applications they've gotten, they analyze them together and get them together. But for Columbia in particular, they have a rolling admission process. And what that means is that the sooner you apply from, for example, you apply on 1st July, you will hear from them about a decision on the interview by 15th July. So within 2 weeks, they reply. Within another week, you get your you set up the interview with the alumni, and then within another week or two, they revert back to the final experience. So for Columbia in particular, and in general B school, I would highly recommend everyone to start applying sooner. Another thing that Columbia offers is early admission, early decision. So I think the deadline is 1st October or 1st September. You can check it online. And you need to apply before that. I think through summer, you can apply up till 1st October. And what that means is that if you hear back from them and if you get through early decision, which I did. I was an early decision candidate. You need to pay the first set of deposits within a week or two, which means that you're committing $10,000-15,000 to Columbia, and you are essentially saying that you will not apply to other schools. So that is also another thing that I would highly recommend, especially international students, because I applied on the last day of early decision. I got I got a little delayed in accepting my scheduling my interview, and then my interviewer was also on some vacation or something, so he submitted his responses also a little late. So all in all, I would say I was the most stretched early decision candidate. And by the time I joined the Slack for Columbia, there were already 450 people or 550 people on it. So Columbia recruits a large chunk of their class from that. And to give you perspective, I applied in August term. Columbia has 2 terms. One is J term and one is August term. August term is a full 2-year MBA where you have 4 semesters and 1 summer to do an internship, whereas J term is a 4-year MBA without the summer internship. You study through the summer and then you graduate together with the August term. So in August term, there are right now, I think 650 people, and in J term, there are around 200 people. So out of 650, Columbia had already accepted 430 or 400 or 450 people. So I would recommend everyone. Yeah, as I mentioned, first you apply, then they revert back to you. This is the alumni you've been moved on to the next process, next step, where you set up an interview with the alumni that they connect you with, and the alumni takes your interview, and that's when you get.
Okay, so the alumni takes your interview.
Yeah, at Columbia, mostly alumni in those regions take your interview.
So, like, there's an expectation that you will be taking an interview of someone else one day. Someday.
Yeah, a lot of people after graduation, they feel like they need to give back to the school. The school's given a lot to them, so they do participate in helping the school recruit during admissions process. But quickly wrap up. So you have to take your GMAT, then you start applying. So this was the timeline piece. You take your GMAT, you start writing essays, and essays for a lot of the core of the essay is the same. What is your story? It's going to be the same. But what is different is the school wants to know that um, you have done a little hard work towards that school, and you've done some background check, and you've done some homework around them. So you have to. What takes time is reaching out to alumni and then asking them what resources the school can provide, so that you can write about those resources in your essays, and you can make sure that you also take the right decision, that if I want to go in a particular career path, is the school right for me or not. So that's why I would recommend to anyone who is applying to apply to anywhere between 3 to 4 or 5 colleges at one particular point in time, because you don't want to spread yourself too thin and then submit poor quality work.
So the alumni thing, can you give us an example maybe that you contacted some alumni and what resource did they talk about?
So so let's take a step back. Before that, I was working with the consulting to figure out what I have to write, what I don't have to write. And so my story was basically, I've done this, and maybe 10 to 15 years down the lane, I want to start expanding my business globally. But right now, after like I started working in e-commerce, I got really interested in tech. Right now, I want to work in tech, and I want to work in maybe a startup or a retail tech like an Amazon, and immediately work there for like 4 to 5 years, learn a lot, and then use those learnings elsewhere, right? In my own sort of venture. So that was my story. And then I just started reaching out to alumni. And you reach out to 100, you get response from 15 maybe. So it's a numbers game.
Out to them?
You mostly, so any school would have these student societies where they would, where students would volunteer to answer questions of upcoming students. So that's definitely one resource. Then before reaching out, firstly, I would recommend anyone to do their research in terms of what the school already provides, and don't waste time asking the questions that can be easily asked. So you do your research, then you have certain things in mind. You reach out to alumni through their email on the website or on LinkedIn who have taken similar paths as you, and then you ask them, okay, what are the resources at Columbia for entrepreneurship? What are the resources at Columbia for startups? What are the resources at Columbia for retail? What are other resources for leadership, etc., etc.? And then you start, after you talk to 2 or 3 or maximum 4, I wouldn't go beyond 4 for any particular school, because if you've done your homework, you would get a sense of what it would be repetitive. Yeah. So just go through those 3 or 4 talks. Look at talks like these, right? Right now, I'll be sharing a lot of integral information. You can just look through the timestamps and see what is relevant to you, what's the question you're asking, and then you need to mention all of those things in your essay, so that the admissions committee is looking through hundreds of thousands of applications. And how do you differentiate yourself, and how do you make sure you signal that Columbia is your top choice, or like XYZ is your top choice. So that is one piece of the process that takes a lot of time. And try to get out the worst. Your first draft will be your worst draft, but try to get it out as soon as possible, and then keep iterating it. I had maybe 12 or 13 or 14 iterations. And I was very, because it was COVID, there were very few GMAT centers open, and my GMAT dates got cancelled. So the second time I took it, the first time I took my GMAT was in college, which didn't work out. Then I started studying again later. And then when I could finally find an appointment, to my surprise, I aced verbal and I bombed quant, which usually, like I was very, very comfortable with quant. And it was just some test taking anxiety or something that I was going through in that moment. And I was like, okay, fine. Columbia to ho nahi raha. Let's start to think about round 2. I still applied with, I think I got a 700 or 710 in that attempt. And I still applied because I had
the score when you gave GMAT before?
It was 690, 680 type, something like that. I don't remember precisely, but it was not worth mentioning. So I got a 700 or something, and the average Indian student gets a 740 or 730. For a female, I think it's expected to get a 730 and above. For a male, because there are a lot of male engineers who are applying with GMAT, the average score is 740. But I would caveat that by saying it's a whole profile. And I eventually got in with the 720 after. So this is interesting, and I think it would be helpful for people that I applied with that 700 score. I did not think that I would get through this round. I was like, fine, whatever. It was just a test taking issue. I can fix that and I can apply to other schools. And because I got a B40 or something, and I got my verbal sorted. And I took the test again. I took the I was scheduled to take the test again in a week, but that didn't happen because COVID, the test center got closed. Then I was scheduled to take the test again within 3 weeks. And between those 3 weeks, I got an email from Columbia that they would like to push me forward for the interview. And I was really surprised to that's when I understood what everyone else was around me telling me that it is definitely a more holistic profile. It's about a more holistic profile. It's not just about your GMAT score. And I'm very like in that moment before I saw them in actually revert to me, I did not really believe it because everybody says it, but there is a huge proportion of this Indian mindset that is very numbers and like score driven. Anyway, so I took my GMAT again, got a 720, submitted it before my interview because I didn't want to drag it out. Took my interview and then I got a result within 2 weeks. Even though I wouldn't say it was a huge bump from 700 to 720. I think they do appreciate um, people who work hard towards them. For example, I heard it somewhere, like I used to watch a lot of these YouTube videos when I was applying. In some HBS something in students interview, and the coach said that if you have two GMAT attempts and if both of them are say a 710 each, you would feel that okay, like I can't say about others, but I would personally feel from the background that I come from, and like the Indian mindset is a little that okay, so you failed for the second time. But over here, they respected in a manner that even though he or she got a 710, they tried it again. So that is seen in a good light rather than a bad light.
Okay. Okay, got it. A lot of information actually. So then after that, I think now you have completed 1 year in Colombia and you're doing an internship in San Francisco, right?
Yeah.
So what is the company name and what is the work culture there right now? And how different is it from whatever you have experienced before?
So it is different in terms of, so the company's name is Split. We are an enterprise SaaS firm. We particularly do feature management and A/B testing. In layman terms, the company creates software to sell to developers to code, to deploy code faster. So that's the crux of it. I am in the CEO's office. I'm the chief of staff intern, and it's it's a great role because you get to see. I'll talk about the differences and similarities. The similarity is that you get to see different functions of the business and you have a holistic view. You work with the executive staff, and so that's great. That's very similar. The difference is definitely the product. But as I mentioned, like through life, I've time again seeing that people appreciate the curiosity and willingness to learn a lot more than actual technical skills in most of the cases, because all of them are very learnable and you can learn them in a month or two. And if you can get the work done for them, that's what they would appreciate a lot more. Just a second.
Yeah, sure.
So the
So,
chief of
if you had to
yeah.
explain your role, practical role, so how will you explain what the chief of staff does?
I love again. I love a lot of things. It's very difficult question to answer, but so think of them as the CEO's right hand arm for executing time sensitive strategic product projects. So, for example, I am working on, in this summer, I'm working on 4 different projects. One is on competitive intelligence, one is on creating a new business case so the competitive intelligence is with the marketing team. I'm working with one of the founders to create a new business case for a new product that we are working on. Probably, I am working on I'm working on a project with the finance team. I'm working on a project with sales team. So you work with multiple different teams, and in that moment, whatever is important gets handed to you. So you get to work on various different projects, and you get to learn a lot.
Understood. So it's like a different product, but mostly like a business. You are doing everything and anything.
Yes, that part is very similar. The different part is the technicalities of it.
Right. So, right now you haven't finished your MBA yet, but I wanted to understand if you have an estimate of your expense of studying MBA in Colombia, basically.
So an estimate, it varies from depending on the city that you are in. New York is definitely expensive, but for international students, Colombia provides um, student housing and things of that manner. So for 1 year, it comes out to be anywhere between 122,000. So around 240 to 50. This would include the tuition, all the material you need, your stay, your insurance. Insurance is mandatory and expensive, but it's necessary to have it here because medical expenses are really, really high otherwise. Yeah, and some other components of it too.
Understood. So yeah, I think your journey has been captured a lot. I want to understand, I think the last question from my side is what is fueling or driving you to work now? As you said that you made a story when you entered Colombia about your journey. You want to learn more from operationals and tech side and then get back to your business and take all the knowledge there. So is it still an aim and goal right now?
So the intention is similar, but the thing that I came to business school with, thinking that I do X, Y, and Z, that has completely changed. I don't know where I'll be post business school. What I do know is definitely that I want to be in a more operator level role. I want to be in a startup. Right now, I'm in a Series D startup somewhere in that C or D range, where there are 150 to 200 people, where you can make great impact, where you are, where the culture is great, and then work. In a similar startup. I guess what I wanted to do is still the same, but the product might change. Like I might not want to go back to consumer. I might want to, because the more and more I'm learning about enterprise and more and more I'm learning about B2B. I'm really intrigued by the economics behind it and by the financial ratios and metrics behind it and how it seems to be a more long lasting business. So definitely work in the startup space for the short to medium term and then see what product I want to go into.
Okay, understand. So I think we are running out of time a lot, but I'll take one of the questions from our viewers. So one says, hi, can you please suggest a decent undergraduate degree along with a good university, preferably in abroad?
Undergraduate degree. Sorry, I did not look into that when I was applying for undergrad. So I would be the wrong person to guide you on this. So
As this
I would
question is
redirect
asked.
it to
Yeah.
someone else. Yeah.
And for a good university, maybe for MBA, let's say you did that.
For MBA, I would say school selection is really important. It depends a lot on what you want to do, because MBA is not the end goal. It is just a part of your journey. If you want to be in a certain geography, doing a certain kind of work, then you have to go to a university that supports that geography, where people recruit from that particular career. So I would say you have to take a lot of decisions on your own before you go out and ask other people what school you want to go into. For example, for me, I had come with the mindset of going a little bit into consumer, explore tech, and so for me and then my strategy was also that I'm going to apply an early decision. So the strategy was, once I apply an early decision, then I'll think about other schools, and depending on that reason. So I had shortlisted schools which had great leadership courses, shortlisted schools which had great retail and tech focus. Columbia was one of them, Harvard, Wharton was one of them. But in all honesty, I feel that you can, from any B school, you can summon whatever resources that you want to and then figure it out. But it's just easier and more, tad bit more helpful if the community already exists in that particular career. Like if a lot of people are already in that career that you want to go into, then it would be better if you go into a school where people do that a lot more. And you can check out like exit reports, and you can check out like employment reports to figure out. I think most of the major B schools, the division is 30% finance, 30% in consulting, and 30% in tech, and then others. Some schools have a heavier focus on consulting, but you can check that out on employment reports.
Actually, we got one question, I think. Yeah. So he's asking, has Columbia ever admitted anyone with some drop years?
I'm sure they would have, but I wouldn't know people in particular, because closest friends who, like, it's not like I'm asking everyone, okay, what was your exact work experience, etc., but I'm sure it shouldn't be an issue as long as you're able to fit it into your story and portray what you learned out of that experience. I'm sure it should be good.
Got it. So yeah, I'm going to end this. It's stretched a lot, I guess. But well, yeah, that's what we have for today. Thank you for joining Inside IIM to discuss Madhurima Shekhar's journey. We appreciate you signing in and hope you learned something new and interesting. I'll see you for the next episode, next webinar. And thank you, Madhurima, for your informative webinar.
Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye.
Bye-bye.